My story begins very inspiring and very beautiful. I was a Russian orphan kid, living in an orphanage, and my mother passed away when I was around 8. My sister and I were separated around the same time, just a little bit later, and so I was left alone in there. The orphanage had performance arts, and the teacher taught us how to dance. We created our own instruments. We had our own folk dresses and colors to represent the spirit of Russia. We performed for our whole town, and we were actually in the newspaper, and that was my first taste of stardom, and I got hungry for it, so to speak. A few weeks later, the headmistress of the orphanage actually told us that we're going to be representing this orphanage in Moscow, performance arts. There will be other groups coming in, and it was just, you never hear about this. The greatest thing for me at the orphanage was getting a 25-cent ruble, they call it, and getting a piece of gum, and I would chew that for 20 hours because just you would hold on to little things. So this was the most amazing thing that could happen to us. I was first on the list, and when we eventually got to Moscow, they said, we are actually going to be going to America, to California. And as you can probably imagine, the anticipation and the awe was immense. We all flew in the airplane for the first time, and we all threw up, and the food was the food was gross, and it just everything about it was magical. When we got there, we went to the Saratoga Russian church, and over there all we had was a bag of toothbrush, one pair of underwear, and the clothes that we had. Then the lady that was in charge of the group pointed to these two adults. Their names were Ralph and Carolyn. And she told me, you see those two people? They're going to be your family for the rest of this trip. It was about a week and a half. So treat them like they're your mother and they're your father. Wow. Like, yes. So I embraced it, and I hugged them and I loved them. And they also had a son named Sean, and he gave up his own Ferrari car bed so that I could have a very nice, comfortable sleeping. And he slept on the floor in his sleeping bag. And I got there, and it was the most comfortable thing I've ever slept in. And every morning he would get up and he would poke me and tickle me and say, come on, get up, it's a brand new day, let's go and play. I was like, whoa, this kid is incredible. Mainly because in the orphanage, you didn't make any friends. You didn't have any friends. You had a few people you ran like in a wolf pack, so to speak, but to grow attached to somebody was very bad because they could go away at any moment. So you would have a few people that wouldn't hurt you. And so Sean was light, completely incredible, and he embraced me as a brother, and I got to experience what it's like to even have a brother, because I only had my mother and my sister in my Russian life. After about a week and a half, the day before we were going to fly back, Ralph and I went to the bank, and Sean was there too, and then at the end he grabbed my hand and looked at me, and for some reason, I don't remember if he was speaking Russian or if I understood English perfectly for the 10 seconds or 5 seconds that he said it. But he looked at me and he said, we are going to adopt you. And I was like, I get to come back here to pizza, to beach, to convertible cars, to dogs and pool, and just I get to come back to paradise. So the day as we were going away, I left bittersweet, but I knew in my heart that I was going to come back. He told me he was going to adopt me. And it took a little bit longer than they expected, but a year and a half later, they all came down to Russia and they picked me up and they took me away. My aunt signed the papers and off I went to my new life. And they even brought me a brand new Game Boy Advance or something like that. It was just video games, and Sean's like, here you go, I got this for you. It was just play with me. And I was like, you got it. Yeah. Like, I embraced it. It's like, this is finally no more crying in a room full of 30 kids, no one to comfort you, no more older kids preying on you and picking on you. And just, I didn't have to fight. I didn't have to survive anymore. I can relax and just enjoy. There was a party, there were people, and I had my own room, TV, all these toys, and it's like, wow, all for me. And they said, we love you, we created this whole room for you. It was amazing, to say the least. A few months into this paradise, the person that was supposed to protect me, was supposed to raise me up into a strong-willed, grounded individual, invited me to his bedroom. There was cuddling before, just normal, family, healthy touch. But on this particular day, he locked the door for some reason. And I thought nothing of it, and he asked me to get undressed to my boxers. Still, so, oh, all right, guess I'm just going to take a nap or something. But then he asked me a question. Do you love me, Denis? What kind of question is that? You're my hero. You're my angel, in a sense. Yes, of course I love you. And so I was like, good, I love you too, very, very much. So when two people love each other, this is what they do. This is how they show their affection. And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, well, let me show you. So he reaches into my underwear and he decides to fondle me. It took me years to relive that memory. And when I finally felt the shock, the pain leaving my body, that I didn't realize that I had left my body when this was happening. It was horrific, but empowering at the same time, because when that happened, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel this sadness that I'm expressing now. I didn't feel anything. It was frozen in time. So then he asked me to do the same for him, and I didn't know what else to do, but in my mind I knew that this whole place was a charade, it was fake. After I helped him get off, he took over and he finished. For me, there was nothing but electricity shooting through my body, and I was like, whoa, what the heck is all this about? And eventually I got dressed and I was about to leave the room, and he said, where are you going? I'm going to go to my room and play video games or something. He's like, okay, well, make sure you don't tell anybody, Denis. What do you mean? Like, don't tell Sean, don't tell Mom, don't tell the police, don't tell the ambulance people, don't tell the firefighter. He went through this whole list of people not to tell. And of course, I still felt like I owned my life to this man, to this being. And I agreed. And about a month later, I started to calm down, and my mind has forgotten what had happened, though it was still somewhere in the back of my mind, because every time I would hear footsteps go down the stairs, I would freak out and panic. This is him. He stopped being my father. Any touch was uncomfortable at that point. But he came into my room, and he asked me what I was doing. I was playing with G.I. Joes or something like that. And in my head, I was like, oh, thank God. Normal conversation, sweet. Maybe this is a one-time thing. But of course, the dreaded words, do you remember what we did? Yeah, I remember. It's like, well, I loved it very, very much. You made me feel so, so happy. Can you do it again? I had to say yes. Rather, I felt I had to say yes. I was in my room, there was no way out. I didn't scream, I couldn't scream, and I accepted that this is my life now. And this went on, and on and on and on and on. And by the time I'm 13 years old, so this started when I was 9 and a half. And I'm 13 years old, and it's happening every day, from morning to night. He would not stop. He's relentless. Can we do it today? Can we do it right now? Carolyn and Sean go off to go shopping. They're gone. Let's do it right now. So it became a chore. I was gone, and I escaped through my video games, escaped through my food. I tried to escape through my own imagination, where I would imagine I was outside and I was playing with a wooden sword and I was defending a castle. But even that was robbed from me. And I do mean it was robbed, because there were days where he would watch me, and in their bedroom was a giant glass window, and overlooking it was the water and the court where I would play for hours. And then some days I would be so into it, and all of a sudden I see half-naked man, just no words, no words. So I couldn't be myself out there, couldn't be myself in the house. So I had to live a triple life. Had to be a student at school, had to be a good boy at a family, had to be a presentable Flynn member of the house when every time we would go out. But I would see how he would manipulate people, and I would see how charismatic he was, and just people loved him, and I just despised them every time, and I would get angry. I'm around 15 years old now. I've now decided maybe what we're doing is really not so good. Maybe it's not so healthy. I'm not enjoying it. I'm putting on a lot of weight. I'm just very, very depressed, very sad, very angry. Eventually, one day, he decided to, well, what do you think about mom? What do you mean, what do I think about mom? And at this point, there was some safety, I guess. She was never very close. She mainly stayed closer to her own son, and she was a great cook. She cleaned a lot. She helped me with homework. So there was some parts that were human. He would always start with, what about mom? And eventually, I gave in to that, and we started talking about and fantasizing about my mother and having sex with her. And he kept on pestering and just asking every day. And eventually he's like, all right, fine, let's do this. And he's like, oh, great, I'll go tell her. And then you go tell her, and then a day later it's like, okay, I told her, and this is what she says. She's all excited, but she needs to make sure that you're all right with this, because she's worried that once we do this, the whole family dynamic will transform. And I reassured him, like, no, it's all good, because I've been keeping his secret. Important word. Not my secret, but his secret. This whole time. Six years now, almost. So he asked me to lie down on the ground and get excited so he can take a picture for her so she can get excited for what's to come. And it was very shameful. It was very embarrassing. What just happened? What's going to happen next? Well, it can't be any worse. Maybe it can be better. A few days later, he says, okay, it's all set. It's all planned out for a Friday. It's going to be at night. And once the guests leave and all the stuff is cleaned up, and he even cleaned all the dishes, he cleaned the whole kitchen. It was crazy. I got to his bed at 11, and from 11 to 2, we were just talking there, and he would get up, oh gosh, where is she? And then he'd go back and forth. Then you hear the footsteps, and now my heart's pounding. You hear commotion out in the kitchen. Door opens, and I'm hiding underneath the blanket. I'm freaking out. Like, this is about to happen. It's like, holy shit. Um, I've seen it, I've heard about it, but now I get to actually experience it for the first time. So of course, through the physical aspect, there was a lot of excitement, mainly because this is something that just been ingrained in my mind. All I thought about during that time was video games, food, and different pornographies, or Ralph's playtime. So she got ready and she got on the bed, and then he tore off the sheets and I couldn't no longer hide, and there I was, fully naked, and there was my mother, and now transforming into just Carolyn in my mind, because how can anyone see that it's a mother after that? I started to have sex with my mother, and that was it. Any idea or any parts of me that were left as a child were gone. Yeah, my body took over, and my senses were just focused on the physical sensation and hearing, oh wow, that feels good, and wow, isn't he amazing, look how great he is. And so I was trying to please both of them, and eventually we've all finished and we slept there, and I slept between them. It was very uncomfortable, but I was finally getting the attention that I needed. I was finally getting some physical contact from this person that was supposed to be my mother. But up to that point, there was nothing but just, here's a meal, let me help you with homework, let me do your laundry, and one hug at night. That's it. She never held my hand, she never coddled me, she never did any of that. And so fast forward, now I'm 18, and now we do this on special occasions. My birthday, her birthday, his birthday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween. Yeah, well, sure, why not? It's a holiday. So I started to disassociate myself, and still up to this day, I don't really celebrate any holiday. Just I don't see the value in it. I'm starting to enjoy my own birthdays, but mainly not so much. I just live day by day. That's my life. And after a while, I thought that Ralph's and Carolyn's verbal abuse and their control mechanism would eventually stop, but it didn't. Even after we had sex, even after I did everything for them, it still continued on. So the bedroom life was their own separate fantasy, and outside they had to put on a show for everyone else. So I stopped taking my medication, and they put me on Lexapro, which, if anyone has ever taken it, it creates you into a kind of mummified, zombified husk of a body. You can't feel anything. You can't feel emotions. You can't feel your body. At this point, I'm getting angry. I've destroyed a part of my door. I've started screaming. I started to say no. Just, you name it. I started to take my power back a little bit. But none of it made any difference. Just, they would say, oh, I'm so sorry, it's all good. And the next day it would just happen all over again. So I was flunking school, there was no passion in life, and I sat on a bridge right by our house. I just sat there and looking down, it was raining, and I'm seeing all the different cement, and I'm going through my head, how's it gonna be? Am I gonna fall down and drown? Am I gonna fall down, hit my head and go unconscious and drown? Am I gonna hit my head and just... It was hard, but I didn't really have any other way to escape what I was going through. But inside I was hoping that please God, just somebody stop this. And 10 cars go by, and I'm like, oh shit, I think I'm actually going to do this, because nobody really cares. and some random stranger stops the car. She rolls down the window. Hey, are you all right? It's like, oh, please go away, please go away. Like, this isn't real. And eventually, it's like, thank you, lady. And then I get up from the bridge and yes, I'm all right. And I walk back and I tell him I almost killed myself. And like, why did you do that? That's so strange, Dennis. You shouldn't be doing that. That's it. Like, that's it. And fast forward, at 19, I decided to put a stop to it. I met a really good friend. His name was Patrick. I met him through just different crystal healing group therapies. And when I first met him, there was just like, oh, I know you from somewhere, from some lifetime. And his girlfriend at the time, they both kind of embraced me and they took care of me, and she showed me some spiritual practices. They never needed anything from me. They never wanted anything from me. And I learned this is love. I knew for sure this is love, because what I'm experiencing, they call it love, but it can't be love because I'm in constant agony over there. And here, this is so relaxed and beautiful. So I got the courage and I went over to his house, and he was about to leave for work, but I sat down and it took me a good amount, maybe 5-10 minutes, to tell him what had happened and what's been happening all this time. He shook his head and swore, and it's like, I knew it. I knew there was something weird about this. And he's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to court? And do you want to call the police? Do you want to tell them? It's just like, I didn't think that far ahead. So I called 911. 911, what's the emergency? Yeah, hi. I don't know how to express this, but I've been abused by my family, sexually abused by my family since I was 9 and a half. I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. How old are you now? I'm 19. Oh, okay. So you're over the legal age limit. We actually cannot do anything for you, and we can't take any action. So here's a few hotlines. Here's suicide hotline. Here's other numbers you can call, and they will be more to assist you. Okay, great, thanks. And I hung up, and that was it. So then I paused for 4 more years. I would go back home, and I would just keep my ground, and he never stopped. Oh, still do it? No, go away. I even have a recording of my last time where he would be asking, do you want to do it? Here's $100, $200. I mean, he was sick. I was his drug, and he didn't see me in any other way than that. And of course, anytime I would confront him, oh, it was love, Dennis. I still love you. Stop bringing it up. What do you mean, stop bringing it up? Anyways, I turned 22, and I find a healing plant medicine called ayahuasca. It stumbled upon me. I wasn't searching for it, and I see now it was more God coming in and you have a mission. You have something to do. You're not going to wither away here at this house, at this mansion, this ginormous spider's nest. My brother, I pray to God, was not abused. He is an incredible, incredible person. He has a lot of talent. But he was abused in a different way. Sexual abuse, as the term goes, is not just through the sex act themselves. It's power abuse. And so he was yelled at just as much as I was. And he was ridiculed for his long hair when he grew it out. He was ridiculed for whatever he was doing, watching anime, playing video games. He was coping in his own way. I'm sure he knew, but now, as I try and talk with him, there is a lot of hush, don't talk about it. I don't want to hear it. Let's just talk about video games or something else. I'm turning 23, and I just came back from another ayahuasca circle. It was very empowering, very healing, very life-changing. So I decided I need to tell somebody this whole story. And I sat down and I wrote down a very small article. I wrote it in a way to not scare people away, because this is a very touchy subject. When you hear about sexual abuse, when you hear about molestation, people tend to wither away or kind of close up because it's too painful to hear. It's too painful to even imagine that something like this can happen to a child. So I wrote it in a way to inspire hope. I wrote it in a way to inspire goodness and never give up, never dim your light, and don't lose hope. Have faith that no matter where you are in your journey, no matter if you just begun or whatever your traumas, whatever, it doesn't even have to be sexual abuse, that God has a plan for you. There is a light at the end of this tunnel. So I started sharing with close friends. And then I started sharing with old teachers of mine that I felt very close to, Claire Vickers and Lisa Frazier. And they asked me, well, first of all, thank you for sharing. We're never going to talk with them anymore. We're never going to see them. We're just going to make excuses like this is sick. This whole time they put on parties, they gave us wine, they just threw all this, and this whole time they were doing this to you, and I was seeing for the first time. So they asked me, what do you want us to do with this? I'm like, just wait. I'm doing my own thing. Just trust me, I will do something about it. But for right now, please don't do anything. Because I didn't want to give up my own comforts. Didn't want to lose my dogs. Didn't want to lose my house. Didn't want to lose any of that. It was okay. It was all right. The abuse had stopped. They started going on Craigslist and inviting other boys and men to relive their fantasy. Claire and Lisa were at a school conference, and there was a slide that came by, and it said, if any child under the age of 25 comes to you and tells you about abuse or what they went through, by law you have to report this to the police. So they looked at each other, and they're like, this is God basically speaking to us. So they called, at the end, they called the sheriff. Sheriff came by and they told him the whole story I told them. They showed him the message or the story I wrote. And one day I get a call from Detective Hanks, Christina Hanks. Wonderful, wonderful lady. Powerful, strong. I got there to the police station and they brought me to this room, kind of interrogation room. Like, whoa, this is all right. There's the glass, the glass window you see in movie theaters. There's a cold table, and they put the mic and they said, all right, start what? Oh, the story. You want me to tell the story? Yeah, tell your story. They went into more detail, asking me exactly how they touched you, exactly what you did, and I realized at that point that maybe I wasn't as healed as I thought I was, though I've been drinking ayahuasca for the past 1.5 years and feeling good and feeling strong. Anytime detailed abuse had to be brought up, my body would shake and I would be feeling very vulnerable and sick. 2 weeks later, I come back because they wanted to do a 3-way phone call. They needed to hear Ralph and Carolyn interrogate them. So I went up there. I created this story. It was good fun, not gonna lie, just to kind of hear them panic and like, Dennis, don't tell them anything. Don't tell anything we did. And they basically said, good job. We got them. And 7 a.m., 13 cops rush into the house. This is the police. We have warrant for arrest. We have the ability to get there. And I had told them the gate code the day before, how to get in, where's all the doors, where it's locked, where it's not. And I was just in my shawl and underwear, and they had to handcuff me as well because they didn't want to arise any suspicion. Then the whole court began, and they were put in jail first, and Carolyn made bail in about 3 days for $550,000. And she came back to the house, so that was a little bit awkward. And she even tried to create a family dinner. Let's have family dinner again. But eventually she got a lawyer, I got a lawyer, and I went to another ayahuasca ceremony, and at the very end I finally felt my anger, because I felt so uncomfortable just sitting in a bedroom and like, what is this? Why am I feeling angry? Oh, because of everything that you went through. Okay. So I had this vision, so to speak, and something, a very loud voice, very strong voice said, for them to see the light, they need to be stripped completely naked of everything they have. They can no longer hide behind their house, their cars, their clothes, nothing. It's like, all right. And that was as well the strength behind going and putting my face out to all the news people and asking questions. And I just knew this was greater than myself. This is one story, but I had hoped that it would create a spark of change in people. Be like, here I am, this is my story. Yeah, I went through 10 years of abuse, but you know what? I'm willing to sacrifice everything I have for my life. And that's what I'm fighting for still to this day. I do my therapies, I meditate, I do yoga, and I'm growing. The court case itself was grueling. There were just months of, okay, it's going to be this day. 2 days before, sorry, it got pushed back another month. All right, it's going to be this day. And this went on for about a year and a half. It just, eventually I was like, I stopped paying attention just to anything really. Oh yeah, it's going to be this day. Yeah, sure, whatever. Just ignored it. And sure enough, both Ralph and Carolyn were charged. Carolyn almost actually made slap in the wrist because she was charged with incest. The definition dictionary of incest has to be blood related, and because I was adopted, it was no incest. And I remember that day we were standing outside, and she just walks out of the courthouse. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" So the district attorney says, "Don't worry, Dennis. I'm going to talk to all the people, all my lawyers. We're going to figure this out." So he charged her with rape. And she thought she was going to be scot-free, but no, she was not. Being in court for the preliminary hearing was a challenge, mainly because up to this point it was very much kind of like a fantasy. It's easier to ride the emotions of justice and goodness that you overlook yourself. And so I cried and I bared my soul. But things were out of my hands, and that made it easier. I knew that I didn't have to take care of everything, just like I've been taking care of them. I could just give the process to be the process. And then on the last day, I wrote a 3-page essay, so to speak, on how this abuse had really affected me. The first 3 minutes were extremely hard because all that came out was just tears and blabber, and the judge said, "Take your time. This is your time. This is your moment. No one's rushing you." And I got out of the courtroom as if a lion had bursted out of my heart. I felt so empowered. And the district awarded me the Courage Award. So that was another beautiful thing that I just could not expect it to happen. Here I was in a room full of lawyers and people that helped just for the cause. I told them, "You're all dragons, you're all lions, you're all wolves. Thank you for doing this, and just thank you. I have my life now, and I truly believe it. I feel it. Every day gets easier. There are some days where I'm in a pit of darkness and pit of depression and sadness that I don't want to do anything. Other days I wake up and I'm ready to heal the world. And I know eventually I will get to a balanced state of being where I will be able to become a father. I will be able to become the healer that I see myself and make a change and show and teach my children and teach anybody that God is good. There is love. Love is real. And it's not what your abusers have taught you. It's it's real. It's something that you've known all your life. You were born with that.